What if I told you that this crushing loneliness you feel is not punishment? What if this isolation you hate so much is actually the universe's greatest act of love, breaking you open so you can finally hear your own voice? We don't talk about that, do we? We just call it emptiness. But what if it's a sacred pause? I remember the night so clearly. I didn't plan for it to be a turning point. No one ever does. It was just an ordinary evening that turned into one of the hardest and most honest nights of my life. The kind of night where the world feels like it's moved on without you, where every text you send goes unanswered, where you stare at the walls and wonder if maybe, just maybe, this is it. The proof that you are as alone as you feared all along. I was sitting on the cold floor of my apartment. The lights were off. The room felt heavy, like the air itself was pressing against my chest. And in that stillness, I could hear it, my own heartbeat. Loud, unavoidable, like it was saying, I'm still here, even if no one else is. And I cried. Not the pretty tears we let fall when we want to be comforted. These were the deep, guttural sobs that come when there's no one there to see you. The kind of tears that taste like surrender. What I realized in that moment was something no one had ever told me. Most of us don't fear being alone because of the silence. We fear it because silence strips away our defenses. When there's no one to perform for, no one to impress, no one to distract us, we are forced to face the parts of ourselves we've been running from. The grief we never processed, the shame we thought we'd buried, the dreams we let die quietly because we didn't believe we were worthy of them. Psychologically, we know that solitude can be fertile ground for healing, but only if we stop fighting it. That night, as I sat with the sound of my own heartbeat, I realized I'd been looking at isolation all wrong. It wasn't proof that I was unwanted. It was an invitation to meet myself. The self I'd neglected, abandoned, silenced. The self who deserved my own love more than anyone else's. And as hard as that night was, it taught me something I carry with me still. Sometimes the universe isolates you, not to punish you, but to bring you back home to yourself. For the longest time, I believed that silence was a sign that I'd done something wrong. That if my phone didn't ring, if the invitation stopped coming, if no one asked how I was doing, it meant I had failed at being lovable. Failed at being worthy of someone's attention, someone's care. I carried that belief like a secret shame, as if other people's absence was some kind of scoreboard that measured my worth. And I see it in others too, the way we scroll through social media, measuring our value by how many people noticed us today. The way we sit in quiet rooms and let the silence wrap around us like a sentence, not a sanctuary. The way we internalize the empty spaces as proof that we weren't enough to fill them. But here's what that silence really is. And it took me years and a lot of heartache to learn this. Silence isn't failure. It's space. Space the universe creates so we can finally hear what's underneath the noise. Space to ask the hard questions. Who am I when no one is watching? What parts of me have I abandoned so that I could be accepted? Where have I been chasing love, approval, belonging, at the cost of my own soul? From a psychological perspective, this is what Carl Jung would call the dark night of the soul. The moment when everything external you've leaned on for validation is stripped away. And what's left is you. Just you. Raw, unguarded, and real. And yes, it's terrifying because it forces you to confront the stories you've told yourself about why you're not enough. But here's the deeper truth I want you to hear, because no one ever said it to me when I needed it most. Silence doesn't mean failure. Silence means you're being asked to listen. To listen to what your heart is whispering beneath all that striving. To listen to what you need to heal. To listen to who you really are, not who you've been performing to be. And I promise you this, the silence you fear is often the doorway to the belonging you crave. The belonging that starts within. There was a season in my life that I don't talk about often. A season where the quiet became deafening. When no one called, no one texted, no one checked in. Days turned into weeks, and I started to feel like I'd somehow slipped through the cracks. Like I was invisible in a world that was too busy, too loud, too distracted to notice I was missing. I would pick up my phone and stare at it as if I could will it to light up, as if one message, one call could rescue me from the weight of feeling forgotten. And here's what made it harder. I'd convinced myself that their silence was evidence of my worth, that if no one reached out, I must not matter. That if people I had shown up for didn't show up for me, I must have done something to deserve it. And let me tell you, that lie is a heavy one to carry. It makes you question every memory, every relationship, every moment of vulnerability you ever shared. But I want to be painfully honest with you because maybe you're sitting in that space right now, waiting for someone to notice your absence, to fill your emptiness, to remind you that you matter. Sometimes the universe allows those calls not to come, those people not to show up, so you can stop looking outward for the validation that was always meant to come from within. From a psychological lens, this is where our deepest attachment wounds rise to the surface. The parts of us that still ache from old rejections, old abandonments, old betrayals. And when no one comes to soothe those wounds, we're given the sacred, though excruciating, opportunity to become the one who soothes ourselves, to become our own safe place. And that's when something powerful happens, when the silence no longer feels like evidence of being unloved, but proof that you are being invited to love yourself in ways no one else ever could. So if today you feel forgotten, I want you to hear this. You're not being overlooked. You're being invited. Invited to remember that your worth doesn't depend on who calls, who comes, who stays. It begins and ends with how you see yourself. For so long, I fought it. I fought the empty rooms, the quiet weekends, the long walks where it was just me and my shadow. I fought the stillness because I thought it was a cage, a punishment, a sentence, a sign that I wasn't good enough to belong anywhere. I filled my calendar with things I didn't care about. I filled my space with noise I didn't need, all because I was terrified of what that emptiness might reveal about me. But then, one evening, everything changed. It wasn't some grand epiphany. There was no lightning bolt or dramatic turning point. It was subtle, almost too quiet to notice at first. I was sitting by a window, watching the rain trace patterns down the glass. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't try to escape the silence. I let it be. I let me be. And in that moment, I saw the isolation wasn't a cage at all. It was a cocoon, a sacred space the universe had wrapped around me, not to confine me, but to protect the becoming that was happening inside. You see, a cocoon looks a lot like loneliness from the outside. From the outside, it looks like nothing's happening, like you're stuck, like you've disappeared, like you're wasting away. But inside there's transformation. Inside, the caterpillar is breaking down everything it thought it was, so it can become what it was always meant to be. And that's what I had to face, what so many of us have to face, the painful, uncomfortable truth that sometimes the universe isolates us so we can let go of who we thought we had to be and start becoming who we really are. This is what psychologists call liminal space, the threshold between what was and what will be. It's where we shed old identities, old masks, old patterns, and it's messy, it's scary, but it's necessary. That night by the window, I realized something that stayed with me ever since. The isolation wasn't breaking me down. It was breaking me open. And I finally understood that I wasn't being punished, I was being prepared. The cocoon isn't where you go to die, it's where you go to be remade. There came a morning after what felt like an endless stretch of lonely nights, when I woke up and something inside me felt different. The silence was still there. The empty inbox, the quiet phone, the space that used to ache. All of it was still there, but I wasn't waiting anymore. I wasn't waiting for someone to call, for someone to knock on my door, for someone to remind me I was worth loving. I got up, I made coffee, I sat with myself, and for the first time, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt present. That moment was small, ordinary, really, but it was everything. Because in that moment, I realized the most courageous thing I had done wasn't surviving the loneliness. It was choosing myself inside of it. Choosing to show up for myself when no one else did. Choosing to be my own safe place. Choosing to stop measuring my worth by who came for me and start measuring it by how I came home to myself. We're taught from the time we're young that our value is reflected back to us by others. The friends who stick by us, the partner who chooses us, the community that accepts us. And yes, connection matters. We are wired for it. But when all of that falls silent, when the room is empty, when no one is watching, that is where the deepest, truest belonging begins. Psychologists talk about self-compassion and secure self-attachment, the ability to comfort ourselves, to hold ourselves gently, to be the one who doesn't abandon our own hearts. And the truth is, those qualities don't develop in the noise. They are forged in the quiet, in the spaces where it's just us, raw and real, with nothing to prove, no one to impress, and no one to save us but ourselves. And here's what I need you to know, what I wish someone had told me back then. Choosing yourself in the silence is not a last resort. It's not what you do because no one else showed up. It's what you do because you finally see you were the one you were waiting for all along. The quiet isn't empty, it's full of you. And that's where your power begins. If you're in that place right now, where it's quiet, where it's lonely, where you feel cut off, don't despair. This is the sacred space where your truest self is waiting to meet you. Let this isolation not break you, but remake you.